Ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, the play's The Thing, with your host, Judy Sleed. Special guest, world-famed producer, Tommy Demaio. Now here's Judy.
Oh, hello, good morning. Thanks for tuning in, and I have my good friend on my show, Tommy Demaio, who is a fantastic person with a fantastic personality, and I invited him this morning to talk about all the shows he's doing, he had seen on Broadway, and well, hello.
Hi, Judy. How you doing? It's a beautiful day today in the Hamptons.
Right, we are in the Hamptons.
And you went to, I hear you went to a reading yesterday at Guildhall.
I certainly did, yeah.
Is there any possibilities of a Broadway show in it, or
well,
what was
we had
your viewpoint?
The author was John Pinturo, who I've heard about many times. He had several plays, and this was a new one. This one was called something about a lake.
Was it interesting?
August, the lake in August, or something like that. I'm sorry, I got up very early this morning.
Well, you know, the first thing to do for a producer is find a great script. Without a script, we have no show. So the first thing we do is look for a show. So, or go to readings, or if some people put on small readings, some people put on little productions. We found lots of shows. In fact, one of the shows that were very successful for me was Dracula with Franklin Jelly. And I flew to Chicago or some place in the Midwest that had a reading about it. And they, from one thing to another, I flew there, and I saw the show, and it was very interesting. A new adaptation of a new discussion on Dracula, and it took from when I went to see it to 3.5 years to put it on Broadway, but it was successful, and Franklin Jelly became a star, and then we wanted him to do the London version. And he got a very big head at the time because he was a big superstar in Broadway, and Hollywood was calling him. And we had a lot of discussions and legal discussions, and finally he did not do it. But we had the set design and the costume design and the lighting design, and the same exact basic foundation of the show, except for the star. We had Tracy Stamp for the star. This is many years ago. And it was a huge success in New York City. And when we opened in London, it opened and closed overnight. That's how bad the star was. So it has a great deal to do with the casting. Because when I saw 9 to 5, the Dolly Parton show on Broadway, the first thing I said is the star that cannot carry the show, unfortunately. Because it wasn't a bad show, actually. It was a good show, I thought. The critics gave it a mixed review, but the star, who is a very big TV star, who was in the West Wing, but I don't know her name, I'm very bad at names, she just did not have the strength to carry the show. And unfortunately, the show ran 6 months and a few days, or 8 months and a few days, which will give it a chance, because of unions, now we'll tour. But if they don't put a very strong figure in, and I'm not saying that we have to have Bernadette Peters and all, but a strong figure that could carry the show. We have a show right now on Broadway called Almost Normal, which is one of our great, great musicals. They won the Tony Award for The Girl, who has a strong voice and magnificent. And it's one of our good American musicals. And she carries the show, but the show itself is a strong, beautiful show. But her voice, when you hear it, you go, oh, this is magnificent. And it's very important to cast. It doesn't have to be, when we did Thoroughly Modern Millie on Broadway, We got an unknown girl for her first show. She was the star of the show, but her voice carried. The production was good. It was glamorous. It was beautiful, but she carried the show. Her voice. It's the voice. A great lady once told me. Lots of people have two dimensions. But there are a few that have a third dimension, like Barbra Streisand, Clark Gable. Many, you feel their presence, which is very important.
So what you're saying actually is that a lot of things go into a show before it gets to even Broadway. Forget Broadway, but even off Broadway, there's a lot of things. Sometimes it takes years.
Sometimes it takes a lifetime. How long you have a show? I remember doing a show for you 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Was it a parrot show?
Yeah, Parakeet. Parrot.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
Sure.
Oh, Gregory.
Gregory.
Yeah. I know we did it off Broadway. We had several readings. We had several stars. And we had a lot of press on it. At that time, there was a lot of press that I knew. And they gave it I had a show called Pretty Faces that I thought was going to be the biggest hit in the world.
I know.
But also I had the person that wrote the show was great talent, but he wanted to direct the show. He wanted to produce it. He wanted to do everything. And sometimes everything is not good.
No, it's not.
No, not everybody's Woody Allen. Very few people are. So even Scorsese will tell you, I need a great writer. I need a great... But when you put all your peas in one pot, it's
not good, yeah.
You fight with the cash, you fight with the producer. I mean, it just goes on and on sometimes. And it destroyed the show, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but it was a great show. I'd love to revive it. I really would, because sometimes I see these musicals and I go, God, how could it be? It's just...
Yes.
And it's $5 million, and then it closes. So $10 million. We had a show about a year ago that Elton John did. And I don't remember the name of it, but it was a $10 or $15 million disaster. And you never know. You could have a Neil Simon show, and it could be the same way. You just never know. You could have a gentleman who never did a show, and all of a sudden it's bingo. And you can have these great writers. Neil Simon hasn't had a hit in 10, 15 years.
Well, maybe he didn't write anything.
Oh, he's written.
Oh,
he's
yeah?
Written. And they read, or they did it off Broadway, just never materialized.
Well, sometimes the well goes dry.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it takes a lot of hard work, and sometimes it's just like all the singers, like Diana Ross. She's had, let's say, 3 or 4 dozen hits, but in 20 years she just can't get a hit. And while Cher gets a hit every 10 years, every 10 years she has a super hit. The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Now we're waiting for 2000. Well, it's something. But
well, there's a lot of competition out there.
So
it's always more and more.
There is a lot of competition, but there's very few great talents.
Yeah, but there are a lot of venues out there. Instead of just the movies, there's a television. There's so many different companies on television where you could do your stuff.
Well, that's what's making we'll say this, that's what's making money in the theater here and abroad, is that we get some television stars like the girl from Sex and the City, the blonde, Cottrell. She did, the minute she finished Sex and the City, the show, the TV show, she did a show on in London called, and it was a drama, Whose Life Is It Anyway? And she got great reviews, but she didn't bring it to New York. She got great reviews, but she didn't bring it to New York, so you can understand that. But it was a sellout performance, and I just read just today about Patrick Swayze passing away, and he was a great person. And he did Guys and Dolls in London.
I didn't even know that.
Which was a fabulous hit, but again, our New York critics can be destructive, very destructive. Where in London, the London critics seem to be a little bit more pleasant. They don't care if the performance is adequate. I think they seem to build it up much more.
So, well, how many critics are in New York?
Oh my God!
A lot.
Oh, you have to realize every television station, every radio station, every newspaper, every magazine that carries the New Yorker, the People magazine, the Observer, the Post, the Times, and all the local papers and all the ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, they all, do you know, just a few months ago, in the summer, headlines in some of the papers in New York had the front page of a show opening and the reviews. That's how little they had to talk about. So it can be very destructive, except I'll never forget seeing a show that ran, Chicago, which is still running and making this is one of the longest running musicals we've ever had on Broadway. And I remember reading a review of when they redid the show, with the new star, they had a new star in it. So every time they have a new star, they review it. And it said, she has no talent, she can't sing, and she can't dance. Now, this is a musical where she sang, she danced, and they said, but she's perfect for the part. The part called for no bad dancing, bad singing, and bad acting. And it was Melanie Griffith, who got good reviews because she was so bad in it. So you never know.
But there was this one, I remember just one name who was very important critic that everybody listened.
Clyde Barnes?
No, some Atkinson or Atkins.
Oh, well, there was a theater named after him, Atkins. There was the theater named after, they took the theater away. I think they called it another theater,
But, you know, this was years ago. There was only just one.
No, there was never one. There was one important one, like the New York Times critic.
Yeah.
Today it's the New York Times critic, and which is always the most important, and the Post and the News. I mean, but
the
yes.
Times critic.
But now they have Rolling Stones and the Wall Street Journal combined. You know, it's.
So what happens when all these critics get together? Whoever gets the most votes, the people listen to. Like, you know, one says, let's say 2 says good and 5 says no good, or whatever.
It deals today with the prices of tickets.
That's nothing to do with.
It would have to be a combination of good reviews and great reviews, like NBC, ABC, CNN, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal became a very important paper in America. It deals with a lot of business. It deals with a lot of movies, theaters, but it's a very strong paper today. It's a much more interesting, and it has a lot of good quality, and it seems to get, if you have a good quote, I mean, having a good quote is, they could take it out, and this is a great show, this is a great show. But word of mouth as well, but the critics can give a show a big boost.
Of course,
and then the word of mouth, but the critics, you know, because you're not going to spend $150 on a show that was so horrible to sit there was painful. You know, and we get a lot of that, to sit there was painful, and they go from one extreme to another. So it does have a lot to do with the critics. So even I saw a show here that was just a basic reading of a show, the Pollock show. I don't remember. It was just a few weeks ago at the Ross School, and it had 2 major stars in it. And it was not supposed to be reviewed, actually. It was just a Tennessee Williams, because it's his birthday.
Oh, is that the one with Sylvia in it?
Well, no name. No, Sylvia Miles is doing, Sylvia Miles is doing Streetcar Named, what is she doing? I got the poster outside. Well, anyway, she's doing A Sweet Bird of Youth. She got magnificent reviews on, she got it in Boston, Provincetown.
Is this theater you're talking about?
Yeah, theater. And she got fabulous reviews. And then we went to see another Tennessee Williams. Her and I went here at the Ross Street. And I thought it was excellent. It was about Pollock's last years in life, and when they thought he was insane or whatever have you. But Sylvia is doing Sylvia's doing Sweet Bird of Youth. And she's doing fabulously well, thank the Lord. Oh,
I
and
have a picture of you here. I wonder if when I show it, if people will recognize her.
do you?
Well, I know who she is.
Because I told you.
Yes. You went to her birthday party.
Yeah, this.
Can you aim the camera here? Okay.
This is Olivia de Havilland from Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
She lives in Paris, and that was her 92nd birthday at a restaurant in Paris. I've been with her many years for her birthday, and she's writing a book about her life.
Oh, that should be very interesting.
And I'm trying. There's a show that I would love to produce, but if she ever did it, it would be like 4 weeks, limited engagement day.
Yeah.
But she's been writing this book for about 10 years, and now she seems to be coming to a closure for the book because she had a very magnificent, interesting life, and she married a wonderful man. Her last husband was Pierre Galette, who was the editor and a very wonderful man for the Paris Times, which is a very, very big paper like the New York Times. And he just passed away about 4 years ago, and she has a wonderful daughter called Giselle, who took over the father's place. And her husband wrote a book. Now, I know you're not going to know the name. I don't know the name. Many books. But one of the names of one of the books he wrote was the new movie that Tom Cruise did. Do you know what I'm talking about? Hitler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was just recently vaunted, and the book was all about Hitler. He had met Hitler and wrote about this thing, but they didn't get permission to do the book from Giselle, who is in charge of it. So they're having this big problem about that. But she's very interesting. To be with Olivia, it's just like being with Sylvia Miles. They tell you everything about everybody. That's wonderful. You know, people that you go, oh, because Sylvia Miles has been in the movies since, I think, the 50s. And she's been in, and Olivia has been in the movies since the 20s.
Right.
And, I mean, she's done, Gone with the Wind. But she's done a lot of, she had 2 Academy Awards. And she lives like a queen.
She's the only one who is still living from Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, the only one. But they keep inviting her all over the world, all over. I mean, but she is a queen. When you go to her house, she walks down these beautiful long staircases, and she drinks the champagne, and then we go out. And in Paris, more than in America, she's much more recognized because she goes out in public, and her pictures are all on the papers, in the French papers, and she comes to America, but when she comes to America, she visits her daughter in L.A. And other than a big event, she tries to keep a low key.
So you have been on this show several times, but I don't know if people know anything about you. So could you just tell us a little bit?
Well, I produce shows on Broadway and in London, and the last show I did was with Nathan Lane, Butley.
Butley, yes.
And I'm doing a show in London, Forget About Me, with
Oh,
Maggie
yes.
Smith. So, you know, I've been busy, and then my son has been doing a TV, he's been writing a TV pilot, and I'm producing it. And so I go back and forth to LA, and hopefully it's sold. It seems to be very hot, and people are talking about it. And now I'm leaving for this next week for Rome to do a production of Forget About It in Italian. So it's, you know, very, and I speak very little Italian, so but I have a great director there. And now more than ever, we're trying to do shows all over the world in their language. About 30 years ago, maybe a little longer, but I'm only 20, so it's, you know, I did a show called Fox something with Ukraine and Jessica Lange, and we did it in Russia, but unfortunately we did it in English. Which
I'm just wondering, in all these places, if you don't understand the language,
so now,
who's interpreting?
Yes,
for
which
you?
is see, and what happened around the world for our shows and in England is that when you do a musical, it doesn't really matter because wherever you go in the world, they play American music. I mean, I remember when I was in Brazil 100 years ago, Diana Ross had Mahogany, this big song. Wherever you went, you heard it. Same with Houston. Musicals have always been successful around the world. American musicals or English musicals will go. But now we're trying to get the comic and the drama. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because sometimes translation can be very upsetting and different. So we're doing a lot of shows. I'm doing 2 comedies around. I'm doing it in Italy and in Czechoslovakia. So, and I'm going to try to do it in Hungarian. But when we went to Hungary, you didn't understand. I said, Judy, say something in Hungary. Oh, let me see. And I'll never forget when you ordered the coffee. Remember, you ordered coffee? And they gave us this little cup, and you talked to them in Hungarian, correct?
Yes.
And they said, well, that's what we serve. But it's very difficult. But it's a new phase that we have to start doing. Because, you know, years and years ago, when we had all the great stars, which we still have today, but I'm talking about the Clark Gables and the Greta Garbos and the Barrymores and Lana Turner, the European audience around the world never heard them talk, ever. They only heard the translation that they dubbed in.
That they dubbed in,
so
yeah.
Like they knew what they looked like, but they never heard them speak, which is really amazing when you think today. But today, we don't do that. We don't dub in. We subtitle. Years ago, we didn't subtitle unless it was a silent movie. Then it was subtitled.
Well, just very quickly, I want to say that you are very well-rounded in many different areas. And every time when I'm with you, I'm never bored, because you can, and I'm sure other people too, because you know about a lot of different subjects, and you can
I was thinking
talk
about, you know, a few nights ago I went to see a play with Daniel Gray, who is 007, the new 007, James Bond, and Hugh Jackman, and it was called The Steady Rain. And I never saw such excitement on the streets since Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor performed on Broadway. There was, you know, you couldn't get near the theater. They just wanted to see them walk in or out. And it seemed it was the same thing. Hugh Jackman, they caused such stirs that people, when we walked into the theater, there was thousands of people on the street. When we walked out, everybody was waiting for them to come in and out, which was amazing. And here is Hugh Jackman is from Australia, and Daniel Gray is from England, and both of them had a Brooklyn accent. They played 2 cops from Brooklyn.
Oh my gosh!
And it was only the 2 of them on stage. It was just the 2 of them on stage.
And I'm sure you understood, because you're
I didn't understand. First of all, Hugh Jackman was perfect in the role, but Daniel Gray, he tried too hard, and he muffed up the words. But it's a good show. But I don't think I'm dying to read the reviews when I go opening night, because it's going to be such a twist. Because I mean, they slaughtered. They had another Rain show about 4 years ago, where Julie Roberts started it. What they did to this girl, they wanted to know what camera did they ever use for her making a movie, because it must be a Disney camera, because they made it look so pretty.
I wish I had a camera like that.
Yeah, they made it look so pretty, but in person, they just, from foot to head, they just put it down to such horrors, and then her acting abilities was even worse than that. But she was a lady, and she did the Tony Awards for the Tony Association, but they slaughtered her. I mean, critics can be, and what was the other? There was another show, and she survived the critics, and she said it on television. No matter what they said, she performed, but she also got a total horror, and it was really embarrassing for some of them. But they go on with great things.
So I know you are traveling a lot, and especially between your homes. Yeah, in New York City and the Hamptons and in
Vegas
and Florida.
And Venice.
So
we mustn't forget Venice.
We don't have that much time left.
Too bad, too bad. You know,
So I was going to ask you, do you have any preference where you like to be most?
oh, let me see. Well, I love the Hamptons. I love New York. But I'm beginning to like Europe. My dream of my life is to get a big apartment or small apartment in London. I've always rented an apartment. I've always had an apartment in London for many years. But now the rents have gotten insane, and I would love to buy. But even with the prices low, London is tremendous. We think New York is expensive. I mean, you can't get a studio in the heart of London for under $3 million.
So you like London better than
I like
York?
London better than any European city because I can speak the language, and I'm very slow. I'm slow. To get a word
I
out.
bet you could fake it.
I could fake it and then go like this.
Yes.
I certainly could fake it, but it's difficult. But you travel a great deal. Now you have started traveling, right?
Well,
you went to
not as
Hungary.
much. Yeah, not as much as I used to. I sort of like it here.
Do you? Well,
Yeah.
you do a lot of work here. You have the TV show. You have the readings of your play that you might be mounting to play. How's it looking?
Well,
What's the latest play you've done?
well, the one that I'm almost finished with is about my life story.
Oh, but are you telling the truth about it?
Yes, I
Because every
do.
time I mention something that's distasteful to you, you
Yeah.
start screaming. In
Yes.
fact, just yesterday you had told
Yeah.
me something, which was not only because I had just come from the Holocaust Museum. I'm not mentioning it.
No, okay, we're gonna have to wrap it up. I mean, we could just talk for hours and
Well,
hours.
I must tell you, thank you for having me. You look magnificent, and I lie a lot. But it's good.
Yeah, it sounds good.
You're right. Okay.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you so many other questions,
Well, next time.
like you are so talented. Is anybody in your family you taking after?
Yeah, I wish. No, I have a wonderful family, but no. We're all individuals, like you are an individual.
Yeah, but some people have a certain talent,
Yeah, like
and they take
well, I was going to
after.
start saying about the royal family and the Barrymores. There are
Oh,
bloodlines
that's
that
your
are made.
family bloodlines. Oh,
Well, it could
I
be.
call you Barrymore a lot. I
John,
know.
of course, not Lionel.
Well,
So it's
this
all well.
was, thank you for coming on last notice and waking up and getting here. And but it worked out well.
It always works out, even though you forgot your earrings and your necklace.
I know.
It's the first time I've
and
ever
I
seen you with
forgot
no
to bring-
jewelry on.
I know.
Like
I
coffee.
always, and I bring water for my guests. And
So you'll give me $1, go buy a bottle. I need coffee desperately.
It was just, I couldn't believe it when I called you back and say, it's later than I think. I couldn't believe it myself, that I was so mistaken.
Well, I think you should set your mind and all your clocks an hour forward, because you're always late.
I'm always
everywhere.
late.
So I think you should set everything an hour forward and put it in your mind that that's the time, not thinking that it's, because in my niece's apartment, Loretta, every clock is wrong, because she's a school teacher, she has to get up early. There's not one that's on the right time. But in her mind, she knows that's the right time. She says to rush. But she used to be like you.